There we go. Okay. So we have the paper here, which is called the Final Unit Plan Project. And I just want to take a few moments and go over the details here of the project. First off, the project is due on December 8th, which gives you a little over a month to get it done. In years past, I've given students 4 weeks. I decided to bump it back and give you 5 weeks. This time around, in the past, I've done a minimum of 10 lessons. I've knocked it back to 8 lessons covering 10 days. And you can have more. So I have had in the past, not very often, but I have in the past some people saying, you know, I have a unit that it's going to take me, 11 days or 12 days. That's no problem. In fact, I have that reflected on a checklist, which I'll get to in just a moment. So let me go through the details. I know you have the black and white here, but I can also then answer some questions for you as well. And you can always come back and reference this video as you see fit if you'd like as well, because I'll post this to Moodle, like I said a moment ago. All right, so first, again, must include a minimum of we must include a minimum of 8 lesson plans covering 10 days of your unit. And I prefer that you start on a Monday for your unit, just for easy work there. I mean, you don't have to. If you insist on starting on a Tuesday, that's no problem. I will not count it against you. The unit must be of a social studies related subject of your choosing between grades 6 and 12. So you have plenty of options and choices to your avail. Feel free to use anything. If you're comfortable with something more government oriented, something more history oriented, something more geography oriented, feel free, okay? As long as it's in those grades, all right? My understanding is you have access to textbooks and things of that nature here in the building of different grade levels. Is that accurate? Some, oh yeah, some right back here. Well, that's math and biology. I see a few over here. Yeah, yeah, and I believe there's like a, oh, the library moved. Okay, all right. If you would like, I do have some copies of 7th and 8th grade specifically. So if you decide that's the grade you want, you'd like me to bring a copy of a book for next week, and you can have it for the next few weeks and give it back to me at the end, that's fine too. So you just let me know if that's what you want to do. You can just shoot me an email or what have you, all right? All right, so the third bullet point, you will need to create a seating chart for your students based on the counselor's notes. Now, you'll notice that one of the sheets, it looks like this, all right? This is these are the counselor's notes, okay? And what I've done is, in my 20-some years of teaching, I've had a lot of students come through my door. Virtually every single scenario that's in this list is a scenario of a student I've had in the past. But I've also jumbled them up and mixed them up, and some have, it's just different things from different qualities of different kids. And all the names are made up. I just made up all the names. But they give you some understanding a little bit of each kid. So one thing that I was really appreciative of a past guidance counselor that we had at Fremont Middle School was, at the beginning of the year, she sat down with us and went through every single kid in the grade and said, here are some things that you might want to know. Some of it was related to maybe educational issues. Some of it might just be general things like, this kid likes that, this kid likes this. It could have been things like, there's a dynamic at home that's a struggle for this child. It could be a variety of different things. It was kind of open-ended. So I thought, you know what, I always appreciated that. So I decided to make up some counselor's notes for your grade. And you'll notice at the top there where it says incoming blank graders. If you choose 7th grade, put a 7 in there. If it's 12, put 12 in there, whatever, okay? And certainly adjust it as you see fit there according to certain things, what have you. At any rate, so I wanted to let you know that is going to be your class. This is your class for your lesson. So when you're designing your lessons and accommodations and different things like that, this is your group. So you know that you have kids that are quote unquote real. real fake kids, I guess you'd say. All right, so it's not just generalities, let's put it that way. All right, next thing, each lesson plan must follow the FSOE model with the following things completed. You need to have your date on there for the lesson, all right? The date of the lesson doesn't have to be the date that you turn it in. What I mean by that is pick a date. Like, I'm going to teach this in March. So March 1st or March 8th or whatever day you start it, just make sure lesson 2 is, you know, day 2 is March 2nd, the next one's March 3rd, next one's March 4th, whatever. You can do that. Yeah, you can certainly do that too. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, so for date, if you just want to say day 1, 2, 3, that's fine too. You can do that too. Make sure you have Indiana state standards. Of course, you know me, I love multiple standards. Also consider literacy standards when you're putting together your standards, not just social studies, because literacy, man, again, we're part of the humanities department, which is social studies and English. And especially we want to make our job important. It is important, but to make sure that it is of the utmost importance of the subjects that we need to latch on to language and hold on tight, because we need to be there to assist the language department and these kids for their, you know, iLearn test or their MEET test or whatever it is in the different states. You need to have essential questions. You need to have observable learning outcomes. These are all the things that you normally see there already. All right. Assessments. I need to see what your assessments are. Okay. I'll get to you in just a second. So, you know, and assessments don't necessarily have to be a test or a quiz. It can be something relatively simple, like bell work. It can be an exit slip. I just need to see some kind of wrap up or some kind of review or some kind of way, and this is for every lesson, some kind of way that you're helping the kids to stay engaged, and you're showing, I see growth, I see mastery. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking for there. You had a question? You don't necessarily have to have one essential question per standard, but you should have essential questions that reflect the standard or standards. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no problem. Learning connections, use of technology. I'd like to see what are the uses of technology you're going to have listed by both the teacher and the student. I'm sure you guys are totally familiar with that, probably way more than I am even. In fact, we're going to talk about that tonight. That's our topic tonight. Very strong, I should underline that, lesson detail with timed specific learning activities. All right, that portion of the lesson plan that has the lesson detail. How much time are you planning on spending on that? How much time are you spending on this? All right, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it is. You can even say, I plan on starting this at, if you prefer, 9:30 is when class starts. So 9:35 we're doing this, 9:40 we're doing that. You can do that if you prefer. It doesn't matter to me either way, okay? Provide assignments for the next day. In terms of assignments, doesn't necessarily mean assignments for the kids as much as it means assignments maybe for you. What are your assignments for the next day to be prepared? It can be either one, however. All right. Accommodations for your learners. And certainly you're going to have students in your class that need accommodations. And you can see that right on those notes. Under teacher content notes, I'd like you to answer the following self-assessment questions. All right. First one, what parts of this lesson, parts of this lesson do you feel will be the strongest or most successful? It's kind of like you're predicting. If you were to put this together and present this to a class, what would this look like? And do you feel like it would be greatly successful? Do you think it would be moderately successful? Or maybe the jury's out a little bit? Or maybe you're taking a risk and saying, I don't know, I hope it works well. You know, what would be your general thoughts on that? Next one, what part or parts of the lesson do you feel may need to be reevaluated or readjusted in the future? That might go along with some of those risks. Like, I'm going to try this out and see how it goes, but this part of the lesson, I'm not so sure. You know, maybe after the lesson's over and I had a chance to kind of reflect, I might want to adjust that down the road. I do that all the time. I think one great thing about being a teacher is that you have flexibility, but also with that flexibility comes the need to reflect and make adjustments for the future. I save everything. I'm a hoarder when it comes to my academic stuff. People make fun of me because on my desktop, I have file folders everywhere, like my whole desktop on my computer. They're like, you have no room on your desktop for anything because you have all these file folders. And I'm like, well, it's my organization. I know what's there, but I save everything and I make adjustments if I need to. And I always think about, I made this, let's say, worksheet for this year. I'm going to put it in a folder, and I know next year when I come all the way back around, you know, maybe a few days before, the week before, when I'm planning, I'm going to take that worksheet and I'm going to revamp it. Or I may make some notes to myself and stick it in that folder in, you know, just a little Word file or something to say, hey, next year, do this, that, and the other thing. Those kinds of things. I do that for myself all the time. And trust me, that will be one great help for yourself. Save everything. Don't throw anything away. Keep it. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Last one. What parts of this lesson are you most proud of and why? All right. I think that's one thing that's part of reflection. It's like I came up with this cool idea, even though you're not actually demonstrating it. You would say, I feel proud of this because why? For what reason might you be proud of that? Okay. Before I move on from the lesson plan part, one thing I do want to point out, and maybe I should say this for the end, but I'll just say it right now since it's on my head. One thing I feel strongly about is I don't feel you're students anymore, okay? You are now pre-service teachers. Does that make sense? Okay, so I want you to start thinking of yourselves as such. So as pre-service teachers, start planning ahead for my ideal classroom. I want to look like this. So if I get a job, if I want to teach 8th grade history, I want to be prepared. So if I'm going to make this lesson plan, this unit plan for 8th grade history, let's say, then I want to say, I want to keep this thing and utilize it. Now, you might not use it word for word the way you had it there. You might adjust it on the fly. But wouldn't it be nice to have 2 weeks out of 36 already planned before you even start your first job? You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying you have to, because I won't know the difference anyway. But I want you to have that mindset when you're doing this, when you're putting this together. I don't want it to just be, this is a unit plan that I'm just doing to get a grade. I want it to be a unit plan that you're doing so that you're preparing yourself for the next step, because you're going to be in jobs very soon. And when you have those jobs, you want to say, hey, here's an example of a lesson plan. Or when you go into an interview, here's an example of a unit plan, I should say. Here's a unit plan that I've already put together. Take a look at that. And that may impress some people right off the bat, all right? Because there's probably not a whole lot of teachers out there ready with a unit plan already, all right? Just a thought. At any rate, back to the bullets here. We're near the middle of the page here. Genuine active links to any primary or secondary source material must be included. So if you're planning on saying, hey, we're going to watch this video on YouTube, or we're going to do this Quizlet thing, or quizzes, or what have you. There's a variety of different things, right? You guys know way more of those things than I do, all right? I would like you to make those. I would like you to have a link for it. If it's a video, great. Share what video link that is. I want to be able to click on that link and go see that video. I don't want it to be an imaginary thing. I want to see it, all right? I'm not saying you have to make videos. I'm just saying I want to see something. Now, if it comes to some kind of activity, like, for example, if you're going to have, and that could be where you combine a lot of these different things. If you're going to have primary or secondary sources that are included in an assessment, like an exit slip, okay, now you've kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone, right? And so you can include links to those things, put that together, whether it's a spreadsheet, PowerPoint, however you want to do that, that's your call. But have those links. Any Google Slides you design will need a link provided, okay? So share that as well. All right, so I'm wanting you to think in terms of, I am actually teaching this to students. I want to be ready right out of the box. Here's my Google Slides. Here's the worksheet I put together, whatever it is. And I'll get to that in a minute, which is the next one. You must create and include at least 3 unique worksheets of your own design that students will work on during the unit, okay? Now, when it comes to designing a worksheet, all right, you need to give consideration for making it look nice, all right? Not just, I'm just going to list stuff on, and if I get to number 6 on some problems and I have A and B on page 1, and then page 2 it's C and D at the top of the next page, that's not really good standard. Does that make sense? You want to make sure that you consider those things, and you want to make it nice and neat, but you also want it to be something that aids in the student's mastery and instruction, okay? So at least 3 worksheets. You must create and include at least 3 unique technology components of your own design that students will work on during the unit. That could be a Google Doc that could be shared with students, or students work together. It could be a Padlet, right? You guys work with Padlets? Yeah. I don't know. Is that old? Is that archaic anymore? No, it's still used? Okay, good. All right. So whatever. I mean, there's a variety of different things. The Cami, that's for PDFs, correct? Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of different things, and I'm sure there's way more. And again, feel free to mix and match a lot of these things, and that's where the checklist comes in, which I'll get to in a moment. At least one lesson must include a thorough cooperative learning plan. Okay. We talked cooperative learning earlier this year. At least 2 lessons must include a comprehensive differentiated instruction plan. So that would be where that differentiated instruction cheat sheet comes in. Okay. And I will have those documents posted on Moodle, all that stuff. So you have access to those and making copies of those things. Let's see. At least 2 lessons must be constructed utilizing Cunningham's 8 phases first. And that is pretty much just a plug and play. When you put the 8 phases together, now you can turn that right into your lesson detail. In fact, you could actually do that for all of the lessons if you really wanted to, because it seems to be a pretty easy thing to do. But you have to do at least 2. If you don't feel comfortable, that's fine, but you have to have at least 2. At least 5 lessons must include observable and documented utilization of the caring ethic. This is something we haven't talked about yet, okay? And we won't get to it today, but we will very, very soon, okay? So I just want to let you know, you might want to just hold off on that one for now, that portion of it, okay? I don't anticipate you guys are going to have the unit plan done in the next week anyway. It's going to take you a little time. Your unit must include a pre-assessment and conclude with a post-assessment. That is, write the tests, okay? Tests don't have to be anything that's earth-shattering. Don't worry about making a 50-question test or something like that. There's no need to do that. What you're trying to do with a pre-assessment is you're trying to evaluate where your students are at right now. How much of this material that you're getting ready to cover do they already know? Like, are there things that maybe you can just kind of glance over and review because they're already very comfortable with it? Or are there things that, boy, oh boy, most of the class missed this thing here. That's something I really need to tap into and talk a little bit about, because I didn't anticipate that, but it's something that we need to talk about. So that's where the pre-assessment comes in. The post-assessment and the pre-assessment can look very similar, but they cannot be the same test. Does that make sense? I mean, it can look similar in design, but it cannot be the same, just to let you know. Okay. Questions, regardless of whether they are part of assessments or part of classroom discussions, must follow Bloom's taxonomy level 1 through 5, levels 1 through 5. Level 6, that's that nirvana level. I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. You can, like I say, it's optional here. But I think the important thing is that we start, if you're doing discussions with your class, you're planning on doing discussions, you want to be deliberate in your discussions, you want to have a list of questions, you want to start gravitating students up the levels, higher order thinking skills, that HOTS, you want to make sure you're attaching to that. Yep. Maybe. It just depends. Yeah. However you want to do that. I will just say this. Do you have to have 1 through 5 in the same lesson? No. If you want to do 1 and 2 and 3 over here in this lesson, and then you want to do 3, 4, and 5 over in this lesson over here, or you want to do 2, 3, and 4 over in that lesson, I just need to see those things. I need to see the build up a little bit. All right. But you don't have to do all 5 throughout every lesson or anything like that. All right. And you may have more of the lower level questions in a discussion and fewer of the higher level questions in a discussion, but I should be able to see these things. Questions, regardless of whether they're part of assessments or part of classroom discussions, must follow Bloom's taxonomy. I want to see the taxonomy. Show me the taxonomy. You can even tag it. So this is, in parentheses. Here's a question in parentheses, level 3, parentheses, level 4. Just that way we can see that. You can, sure. You can do that. And one thing you might do is you say in your lesson detail, classroom discussion, and then put an asterisk, and then down in your teacher content notes, you can have that asterisk there and say, here are the questions I plan on asking my class in a discussion. Does that make sense? Anybody, am I throwing anybody off? We good? We good? I'm getting some deer in the headlights looks. Are we all right? You sure? Okay. So the idea of when you're doing discussion questions in your lesson detail, where you're doing 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you don't have to have the questions in there. But if you're going to say something like have a discussion, then have an asterisk, and then down somewhere in the teacher content notes with your asterisk, list what those questions are. That's all right. Yep. Okay. Your final unit plan must be shared electronically. All right. Yes. Put each day's lesson into a separate folder, day 1, day 2, etc. All documentation above must be included at the time you turn in your plan. So basically, don't turn in a partial plan. Turn it all in at once. All right. It is due on or before Wednesday, December 8th at 5 p.m. The project's worth a third of the overall grade, 200 points. Okay. So just to let you know, I will be here at 5. All right. And if it's 5:05, I'm not going to chastise you or anything, but let's try not to be too late after that. But in fact, I've had a lot of kids this year. They've just turned it in earlier in the week down in the office. And that way you can just be done. So you can do that if you, well, not down in the office, share with me, I guess. In the past, I've done it written. So this time we're going to do it electronic. So you can just share it with me earlier in the week if you prefer. Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions up to this point? Actually, the last class you'll have with me will be the previous week, December 1st. Is that right? Let me double check that. Yeah, December 8th is finals week. Yeah, December 1st will be your last class with me. Yep. So you will have December 8th will be just the turn-in day. So I will be here. All right, I'm obligated to be here. So if you have questions before you want to hit the send button or submit button or anything like that, you're welcome to do that. I have to be here. All right. Oh, it's the following week? Okay. Okay. There you go. Well, our last day is December 8th, and our last class period will be December 1st. So if you guys are upset about that, I'm so sorry. We can meet if you really want to. Will you survive? I guess technically, yeah, there you go. Yeah, technically that'll put us at 15 weeks, and the 16th week is the day we've always turned it in. So for some reason we have 17 weeks this quarter or this semester. I'm not sure how that worked out, but whatever. At any rate, moving along. Okay, so points of emphasis, just a few things to finish up with this. Be detail oriented. Consider all facets of your classroom environment, makeup of your students, and the flow of time. If this was your real classroom, you do yourself a disservice and struggle often if this were lacking. Okay, so and to kind of go along with that, well, I'll get to that one in a minute. Next one, use the checklist. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is this checklist here. All right, this checklist is your friend. This is your buddy. Okay, and one thing I even tell my 7th and 8th graders, if I provide you with a rubric or a checklist, use it. Put check marks in there. Check it up. All right, so that way you know that you're on track, because with 8 lesson plans and all these moving pieces and parts, you need to remind yourself, oh yeah, I already did that. Oh no, I haven't included this yet. And by the way, again, you can include 2, 3, 4 different things within different lesson plans. All right. If you want to make a differentiated instruction lesson that also has cooperative learning in it, that also uses different types of technology, that has questions and a discussion that are based on Bloom's taxonomy, you're welcome to do that. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I mean, obviously that would be a lot of units if I said do one at a time, or a lot of lessons. All right. So yeah, use the checklist. It will help you stay on track and allow you to verify for yourself and for me that you have met all of the criteria required, okay? Be creative. Use others' material. Using others' material is okay at times, but you are being judged on how much creative content and materials you put together, okay? When it's of your own hand, you have full control, all right? We all have had those teachers that have just, when they got the textbook adoption, they have the book of worksheets, and they go to the copy machine, and they must stand at the copy machine 180 out of 180 days, making copies of this next thing in the book and handing out the sheet, right? And then what are they doing? They may be over in a corner reading the newspaper, checking out ESPN on the computer, whatever it is, all right? Unfortunately, those give teachers like you and I a bad name, because that's not who we are. We're professionals, and we're going to make sure that we be professional about our activities. So when you create it of your own hand, you have full control. Outside of that, you don't. Be thorough and comprehensive. While you might have things played out a certain way in your mind, I am not a mind reader, all right? Therefore, if you're not sure if you should include it, you should, all right? And if you have any questions whatsoever about any of these things, you have my phone number, you have my Trine email, okay? You can get a hold of me at any time. Email would, please don't call me at 3 a.m. But if you want to email me at 3 a.m., you're welcome to do that. How's that sound? Okay? Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes I do that too. I will tell you that all of the different sheets and things like that, I will have posted on Moodle. You can make copies of those things, like Google Sheets, documents, and things like that, so that you can use those for your lesson plans. Yes? Yes, I just don't have the links posted yet. Yep, so it's under week 11, agenda and assignments for week 11. I just don't have those, I just don't have the links up yet, but they will. Yeah. Really, it's still out of 200 points regardless, so it's not going to be more points added. But I put 12 days there just because if you had a particular, maybe you had an idea for a lesson you wanted to do, and you decided, you know, I think this would be best served to do it over 3 days or 4 days instead of 1 or 2. You have some flexibility there. So yeah, I mean, at the minimum, you need 8 lessons over 10 days. But if you want to extend it into an 11th day or the 12th day, because you're going to do a little bit more group work or some kind of project with the kids or something along those lines, you're welcome to do that. That's why that's there. It's not a requirement. Sure, that's no problem. And then I've been teaching it, and like some of the block scheduling, there could be classes, 90-minute classes. So do you have creative freedom in that way? Let's put it this way. I will give you complete freedom as to how long your class is going to be, if you want to do 45, 60, 90, any of those things. But please understand, be consistent. Don't have today be 45 and tomorrow 90 and the next day 15. I mean, you know, yeah, have it be the same throughout. That's all. So if it is, especially if you're going to be teaching a high school class, a lot of high schools are doing the 90-minute blocks, 80, 85, 90-minute blocks. You may want to do that. You may want to have that. Middle school, I don't see 90 minutes very often. I usually see somewhere between 45 and 60. 60 is usually tops. 50 to 55 is kind of a norm that I've seen from a lot of middle schools. So they're 70 minutes long. Wow. Oh, but that's a high school, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's pretty normal. Hello. So with that said, that is the project in a nutshell. I've just recorded everything. It'll be on Zoom, so you'll have to watch it though. Promise me you'll watch the whole thing. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Okay. So any other questions before we move on? And again, you're always open to email me or even call me if necessary. Just don't call me at 3 a.m. All right.